you all aren't familiar with MissionWorks, I do suggest that you look them up. They have a lot of great trainings for folks in leadership positions, specifically working in youth development. And I also want to welcome all of you because we all have experience. So I am not by no means the only expert in the room. So if there's something that I say that you don't agree with, please push back. If there's something that I miss, please add to it. We all have a lot of knowledge, so please share. Marlies, can you go into the next screen, please? All right, so we're just gonna do some quick, housekeeping. So rules of engagement. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I have people coming in. I think Tameen just made it. Did you let her in, Marlies? Perfect, thank you. All right, so Zoom rules of engagement. If you can, please keep your cameras on. Please stay muted until it's your turn to speak. And try, I know this is really difficult. We have a lot going on. Please try to close off distractions if possible. Next, we have our full-time ways of being. This is what we are all familiar with. But if I can ask maybe for a volunteer to help read some bullets, that'd be great. I don't want to hear my voice the entire time. Anyone want to take maybe the first two bullets?
Purposeful communication and clarity, encouragement to be truthful and share our observations with the aim of effectively problem solving.
Compassion and kindness for each other, being present, body and mind.
Bringing integrity and transparency to our work, saying, I don't know if you do not.
Actively listening to one another and building perspective, having and sharing fun.
Being mindful of our energy and its impact on ourselves and others.
Thank you. I also want to know that, you know, we're all here today and I'm sorry, here comes the list.
Yeah.
So I just want to acknowledge who's in the room, who's in this space today. Some of us are sitting in this space with our supervisors. I want to name that, and I want us to just be mindful as we talk about supervision, what works, what doesn't, styles, things of that nature, to just keep that power dynamic in the forefront as we work together for the next hour or so. All right, we're gonna jump into our go around. If I can have everybody state their name, grade band, the amount of years of supervisor experience that you have, and then also think of a supervisor relationship that worked for you, what made it work and why. I can start to give people some time because I knew that this question was coming up. So again, Nelita, I work with 6 through 8. I want to say about like 10 to 11 years of supervisory experience at this point. And when I think about a supervisory relationship that worked for me, I think about when I actually first started with CYP in a program director's position. And my supervisor at the time literally walked me through everything step by step. We had like a 2-hour orientation at Panera Bread. I won't forget that. And we went over, I don't remember, I mean, it was tons of information. And then not only did we review these documents that had a lot of information, but the first couple of months, we walked through everything together. I was showed, you know, systems, I was taught systems. And so I felt really empowered because again, this was my first time in this role and there was a lot that I didn't know. And so to have somebody there to support me through that was really helpful. So, but also I would add that as I started to grow, it was something that was observed. And so I was given less and less direction and more support and praise. So that's what I recall for mine. Anyone ready to go?
Danielle, K2, 6 or 7 years, I believe, supervisory. But I would say the one that really worked for me, and I feel as if this person really helped me find my footing in this line of work was at Gately. And this person was very blunt, but also very uplifting and very much helped me. I was like a chronic, I still am self-doubter, but this person refused to let me do that. But also at the same time, it was kind of like, okay, if that's how you're gonna feel about yourself, that's how you're gonna feel about yourself, which was kind of a, oh, wow. So that person really pushed me in the right direction with some tough love, which I appreciated.
Thank you, Danny.
Jamie Lynch, I'm grade band 3 through 5. I probably have about 5, I don't know if we're counting this year as supervisory experience, but probably going to like my 6th year of different jobs where I've had that type of role or in different ways. And not to like really kiss up to Wendy, but Wendy's my supervisor, and I really, really enjoy our meetings with each other. We go about every 2 weeks. I come in on my way to work. It takes about an hour. I just kind of spill out everything that's in my head that's been going on in my program. And she really kind of helps me like chisel it down to like, okay, well, if this is what's happening, what are the outcomes you're looking for? And how do we reach those outcomes? And just having someone to bounce ideas off of like that once every 2 weeks has been absolutely invaluable. Yeah, and whenever I need her, I can also call her or text her too, which has also been like, I never feel like, even if I feel like I'm imposing, I kind of know I'm not, or I know she'll get back to me. So she's very available. And I'd say that really helps me be confident in my kind of day-to-day, knowing that someone has my back, even if they're not in the building or in the room, that they're just a phone call away. It really, really helps. Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you for sharing, Jamie. Go ahead.
Sorry, this is Janaea. I am part of the K2 band. My first time being a supervisor, I want to say was, I've been working in the supervisor position. I don't know, probably I would say like 4 years overall. And my first time in the supervisor position was a summer placement, and I felt confident enough to go for that job because of my supervisor from my during the school year. She had, and I like the word that you used, Nalita, when I think it was you when you said empowering. She really was empowering to me. She was nurturing. She was very hands-on. She made me feel like very confident to make this transition into, like, she believed in me more than I believed in myself. So her giving me that confidence made me feel like, all right, I can do this. If it isn't for me, it's for her, because somebody else believes in me. So it just felt really good it was scary, but it felt really good to like take that on because of who my supervisor was previous.
Thank you, Janaya.
I think I've been supervising for 3 years. And a relationship that's really worked for me was Vanessa. I think similar to what a lot of you have said, like, I've never questioned if she thought I could do it. And so I was like, well, she thinks it. I like her and I trust her. So then I can probably do it. And I have really appreciated how much she's kind of pushed me to grow as like an individual person outside of like strictly who I am at work or who I am as a program director. But knowing that like that growth and development as a person then like feeds the work and has made my work so much better. And I think one of the biggest things is that like in the times when I felt really lost and stuck, I've been able to be like, help, which is really, I'm not someone who says help easily. Yeah, so that was really wonderful.
Thank you, Marlies.
Good morning. My name is Mabruka. I'm with the K2 band. I would say overall in different jobs, I've probably had about 5 years of supervisory experience. And when I think of what really worked for me being supervised and supervising, I'm reminded of the first supervisory position I had where I was like really terrified. I was just out of high school and did not feel capable of supervising anyone. And my supervisor was this really nurturing woman who gave me the confidence to supervise well, but also gave me space to make mistakes and learn how to communicate with her that I was making those mistakes and ask for help when I needed help. And like someone just said, I'm not good at asking for help sometimes. So that was a really important skill to develop.
Thank you. Who else has to go? To me and Aaron.
I'll go.
Thank you, to me.
I am in the K2 band, and I've been in a supervisory role for since like 2001 in different variations. The whole spectrum of youth work, from teens, preteens, high schoolers, everyone, and also in retail and business management. And I've had a few good supervisors, and I think what makes them a good supervisor is allowing you to just kind of take the reins and run with it and have your ideas be something of importance. I have to agree with Jamie. Me and Wendy, our supervision is usually just like kind of like a check-in and a kind of idea throwing out there and kind of seeing how things work, instead of just someone overseeing you and, you know, checking off a list of things that they need to check off. It's more of a discussion and a conversation, which I appreciate.
Thank you, to me.
My name's Aaron. I'm with the K2 band. I've been supervising for about 10 years. I think the best supervisor I had was a woman by the name of Sharon, who taught me that simply doing your job well does not merit commendation. She was brutally honest, and she would always tell me the things that I could do. Just explain to me that basically going above and beyond is what you need to do. And sometimes that may entail things that are outside your job description, but her being brutally honest with her feedback was very helpful.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yes, I Katie, and in the K2 band, and I guess I've had a supervisory role about somewhere in the range of like 8 to 10 years. You can't really pin it down, but I very similarly, or in a way, my supervisor is here. Liz has been my supervisor through most, if not all, of those years. And it's been a great.
You want me to plug my ears, Katie?
Let me tell you the real thing. Okay, no. It's been a great relationship. I would say that like the best part of working with somebody for so long is that you start to feel the rhythms of how things can be made better, and then also how when things don't go right, there's a level of like, I know what to expect. Like I wouldn't when I had this, when I was in the space that I needed to grow and do something different, I knew I wasn't scared to go into that space and talk with Liz about it. So it was a wonderful relationship, and always like available, or not, maybe not always, but like readily available to help. And it made it easy to come and do what I needed to do, as well as ask for room for space. And I think that sometimes felt like sometimes can feel like the hardest thing is like asking, I need space, I don't know how to do this, please help. And or I don't know what to do. And in essence, I was asking for help, and it was great to have that relationship where she could read that and be like, oh, you need help, I'm going to help you. So that's my experience.
Thank you, Katie.
I can go. I think one of my best supervisory experiences was when I actually had a couple of them, but in both of them was I was moving from having one supervisor to another, and in both those instances, I was moving from a very controlling supervisor who would micromanage and kind of like all the things that you don't want to have happen, to kind of going to the complete opposite and having that freedom to kind of make those mistakes without any fear, and really trusting, like knowing that they trusted me and had my back if I do make mistakes. And then those times when, I needed to be called out, they called me out, and I knew it came from love because they only wanted the best in me. And so I think in both of those instances, the trust was built fairly early. And so when I had that, any feedback, whether negative or positive, I knew it was all coming from love. So. Oh, and Wendy and I've been supervising for, let's say, I think 15 years now.
Okay, I can go. Liz, K2 band, supervising for, I'm not going to tell you how many years. A long time. And I want to say the best supervisor I had was somebody who's no longer with the department. And I guess when she was supervising me, there were times I could have said she was mean, but in hindsight, it was tough love, but she was, I think the thing I appreciated about her the most was she was to the point, but her door was always open, and she trusted you to let you make decisions. She was definitely, I wouldn't classify her as a micromanager, which I really appreciated. But yeah, it was just the relationship. It wasn't it was a very business-like relationship, but it got me to where I needed to be to move forward, even though it wasn't always rainbows and puppy dogs.
Thank you, Liz. I want us to all take a moment and just think about all these amazing stories that we shared, and one, Katie, as you highlighted, and as I highlighted in the beginning, it's not easy. Some of our supervisors are in this space, but it's great that all of us had at least one, supervisor who we can say that person really helped me. That person was really there for me. And all these amazing stories that we've heard, I am confident that as supervisors, there are people out there that we have supervised that have amazing stories about us as well. So here's one thing. I thought there were some newer supervisors in this space, but that's not the case. But anyhow, I just want to take a moment to just celebrate that we've all had that opportunity, and that I know that we are all caring, given supervisors. And so there are stories out there being told about us that we should celebrate. All right, so let's jump right in. Marlies, can we go to the next slide? All right, so agenda for today, our time together, we just went over welcome and housekeeping. We'll start to think a little bit about supervision. How do people become supervisors? What does it mean to become a supervisor? What does it mean to be a supervisor? What are the roles and responsibilities? We'll look at different supervisory styles, talk a little bit about that, and then we'll look at the model. We'll look at a model that will help us to identify when do we use these different models, or different approaches. And then we'll get into some plan, and we'll do some case study work where we get to work with the model in practice. And then we'll talk about reward and recognition, and then we will close out for the day. Any questions? All right. So, magic question. How do supervisors become supervisors? Just chime right in. How do supervisors become supervisors? You can think about your own experience.
You get promoted.
Get promoted, Jamie.
By showing leadership.
Showing leadership.
Someone this is how, literally how you become the title of supervisor. It's not how you become a good supervisor, but you have people who you have to supervise. Though I say that, actually, I feel like I was very lucky early in my leadership before I was officially a leader, that I got to not be someone's supervisor, but kind of practice supporting someone before I had the title. So I guess then it would be Danny's showing leadership.
Mhm.
Even like taking on an initiative of just stepping up when, I feel like that's how similar my story of like just stepping up when needed and people noticing.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that when you're good at your job, you get promoted, right? And it's like, you're so good at what you do. So here's this opportunity. And for me, that was definitely my experience. When I started as a part-time youth worker, I guess my supervisor felt like I did my job very well. I was responsible for lesson planning. I was responsible for facilitating. I was responsible for creating agendas, staff meetings, and planning field trips, all of the above. At the time, what I didn't have was much supervisory experience. However, I was found myself in that role. And so we often are put in that position, as Marley's mentioned, doesn't necessarily mean we're a good supervisor at the moment, especially when we're new to it. Often I find that we're put in that position without training. So what I'm hoping is that today, there's several of you in here who've been doing this for a very long time. So I don't think that you might be actually learning anything new, but it could be a reminder and just refamiliarize yourself with the different styles, different approaches, what works, what doesn't. I know for me, when I first did this training and came up and just practiced this framework, it was probably about 10 years ago. And it's still happening now. These trainings, the same model, same content is being delivered. And I think that speaks to the effectiveness of the model. And I will say that as I kind of refamiliarized myself with it, maybe about a month ago, I was able to think back of moments where I didn't necessarily think about my approach. And as I was supervising, and what differences I could have made, right? Supervising can be fun, but it can also be challenging. It can be very rewarding, but it can be hard. So hopefully, after today, for those of you again who've been doing this for a very long time, we'll at least walk away with a reminder of how to move. And for those who maybe haven't seen this framework before, we'll gather something and take away something that you can go and apply. Marlis, can we jump into the next slide? So we are going to take a minute, 15 minutes. Marlies, do your magic, break them up however you see fit. So we have a little bit of a smaller group. But in your breakout rooms, you're going to discuss the roles and responsibilities of a supervisor. We talked about how people become supervisors. Now let's talk about what supervisors do. And the task is to create a job description. And then if you have time, find yourselves in the room with more time, have conversations about how you became supervisors, share a little bit with each other. I want to highlight that the reason why, or one of the reasons why I wanted us to go around and share our experiences with a past supervisor was because it's important as a supervisor to be able to build opportunities to build relationships. And I feel like I learned a little bit more about each and every one of you as we shared about our journey and a supervisor that we've had that worked really well. And so again, I encourage, if you have time in your breakout room, talk a little bit about how you all became supervisors. Molly, you breaking them up? You're on mute.
I'm recording, so I'm trying to keep your face as like the main face so I can't see if I'm muted or not. Lita, do you want to be in one?
No.
Okay. Then just don't accept. Just don't accept it when you get the invitation. All right, you should all be off.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Hope y'all had some fun. All right, Molly, can you go to the next screen, please? All right, so let's take a look at this supervisor job description. I guess there were questions about whether we were creating one that was just general supervisor or a specific supervisor for DHSP, and the answer was just a general. So when we look at this job description, it would apply across the board, whether you work in retail or whether you work with young people or wherever you work. So let's play a little game. let's look at the first bullet, diversity. Who in their teams came up with that on their list, on their job description? Right? Show of hands or thumbs up or something. Oh, hooty hoo, anything. Nope, nobody? All right, equity. Inclusion. Hiring. Oh, you got that? You got that, Marlies? Orientation, providing orientation. Training, professional development. I can't see everybody, but thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Katie. Meet regularly, providing supervision. Performance management, goal setting, evaluation. Reward and recognition. Implementation, adherence to personnel policies. And effective communication. Is there anything that surprises you about this list? Anything we feel is missing from this list? I know there's a lot more in any job description that I've ever viewed. It's like, oh, okay, these are my roles and responsibilities, and there's so much more that comes with it that no one ever tells you, that you just kind of like figure it out, right? Like I'm sometimes a therapist, which I didn't, really go into that line of work, but yeah. All right, so I want us to focus on 4 of these bullets. So we're gonna move into the next slide, Marlies. So diversity, equity, inclusion, reward and recognition. For me, in my opinion, I strongly believe that these 4 areas are super important to the culture of an organization or the culture of a team. When I was very, very, very young in my first role as a supervisor, this wasn't something that I thought about. I didn't think about the culture. I didn't even really understand. I remember doing QIS. At the time it was ISAS, and I had people come into the program and observe, and they kept talking about like, oh, the culture that you've created here, the culture, like, how did you do it? What did you do? And for me, I was just in a space where I'm like, I actually don't know. So that first year, it was really about me being mindful, thinking about what practices have I put in place, or have we put in place as a team to create this environment and to create this culture. So when we think about diversity, I'm specifically referring to the presence of difference, right? Specifically in identities of staff along a wide range of areas, from race, gender, orientation, physical abilities, all of the above. And I think I know it is super important to have diversity in a team. And it's also important that our team represents those that we serve. So we think about our young people. Our young people should see themselves reflected in those that are facilitating, that are teaching, that are in the space within and building relationships with them. When we think about equity, it's acknowledging that everyone is entitled to the same opportunities. Equity acknowledges that there's benefits that benefits and challenges exist, and that we're not all starting from the same place. And at the end of the day, as supervisors, as we try our best to remain fair and consistent, we also have to acknowledge that staff need different things. And so it doesn't mean that we get the same thing. A good example of this is, I was just thinking about how Michelle sent out a survey to all staff to say, what do you need? Do you need access to technology? Do you need a space where you can work? This is important. This allows everybody to have what they need in order to get the job done. I have a computer at home. I have a laptop. I have a printer. I don't necessarily need that, but there are others who do need that. So giving them, making sure that that we understand the needs of our team and of our people we're supervising, and providing that to them, that's what equity looks like. And when you have those 2 pieces, diversity and equity, it creates an inclusive environment where staff feel valued, they feel welcome to an organization, they feel like they're honored. We honor and appreciate their different ways of being, different approaches to communicating, different approaches to the work. And I think it's also important to think about your physical space. Is your physical space representative of the identities of your team, people on your team, of young people and families? At this point, virtually, that might look a little bit differently, but it's still something to keep in mind when we go back to our sites, maybe in like 5 years or so. Lastly, I think this was something for me that I will admit that I didn't think too much about. I'm someone that, well, when I first started, it was definitely like, you do your job because it's your job, right? And so when you do good because you should do good. But I do acknowledge that people need to understand and feel valued, celebrated. They need to know that their supervisors and their team actually sees the good work that they're putting in, and the energy and the time and the effort they're putting in. So we're going to come back to this at some point and really think about what reward and recognition could look like for all of us as we jump into this virtual world of supervising folks. Any questions on any of this? All right. So we are going to take a little break. You all can have 10 minutes, stretch, do what you got to do, get some food. And then when we come back, we'll jump into supervisory styles. Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. Let's keep moving. It is 11:17. I want to make sure we do not go past 12. So we are going to keep moving, and we're going to take a look at supervisory styles. Can I have someone read out directing for me, please?
Provide step-by-step instructions. Demonstrate steps involved in doing a good job. Clarify expectations related to each goal/objective. Monitor progress and compliance with rules and regulations.
Thank you, Aaron. Someone take on coaching?
Provide extensive and regular feedback throughout projects and assignments on both process and product. Let staff know you have confidence in their abilities. Praise staff's good work.
Thank you, Jamie. That was great. Can I have someone read out facilitating for me?
Provide a sounding board as staff make decisions about how to do their work. Create space to discuss concerns and explore possible solutions. Provide assistance as needed, but encourage staff to create their own work plans.
Thank you, Wade. And I'll take on delegating. Assign broad goals. Expect staff to create their own work plans. Allow staff to correct their own course along the way. Provide feedback on results rather than the process. And encourage risk-taking and ownership. Thoughts on this? Is there anything that surprises you? Are we all familiar with these approaches? As we were reading through, were you able to identify kind of like what your go-to is? Because we all have a go-to. It's kind of like a default, and we want to like lead into a specific style, but also acknowledging that sometimes our go-to isn't the right approach. And so we need to be able to adapt, hence adaptive supervision, so that we're actually meeting the needs of our staff and our teams. And I think something to note is that this approach is task oriented. It's not so much about the individual. There's definitely that aspect, but it's also about the task at hand. So we're going to look at something real quick. If there's no questions or thoughts. Going once, going twice. All right. Molly, can we jump into the next breakout space? So what I want us to do is, one, I want to be transparent that I was told that there were going to be folks here who had no supervisory experience. Lie, okay? So all of you have several years of experience. And so the less practice, unless someone feels really adamant about practicing those styles and learning more about what those styles look like, someone's interested or people interested in doing that, we can. Otherwise, I would say let's just stick to the reflection. Again, when I was planning this meeting or this this workshop, I had to take into consideration my team, right? As supervisors, we need to know who's on your team, what are the experiences they have, what are the skills that they have, what do they bring? And so an attempt to meet all the needs for those who were, who have been supervisors for a while, I was going to have them do some reflection to think about what their style, the style that they think is more challenging and why. Think of a time that you used your go-to, but that wasn't the best match. What happened and what approach would have been better? And then also, what is your preferred style of supervision to receive? And then for those who maybe were new, like I was told, but don't exist, then we would practice. So with that being said, is there anyone who wants to practice, or do we all feel good about doing some reflection? And we'll do this on our own. So just get a piece of paper and pen and just think about these prompts. Anyone want to practice? Molly, can you see everybody? Because I can't. Okay. Cool. All right, well, we're gonna give everybody time to turn off the screen. You'll have 7 minutes, and right away.
Would you mind popping up the 4? Is that okay?
I'm gonna throw it up. I just also wanted to put it in the chat.
Thank you, Marlies.
Oh, Danny, you wanted not the instructions, you want the 4 styles. Love that idea. That makes way more sense. I'm a little like slow on the uptake today.
Marlies, did you put the questions in the chat?
I did.
You're awesome.
I try.
Good job. Welcome back, folks. All right. So that exercise was solely for everyone to take some time to be in some deep thinking and reflection about the different styles and their approach, your go-to approach. Is there anyone that would like to share maybe something that you wrote down that you want to share with the group? It's not necessary, but if anybody wants to share, please do.
I realized I have the screen, so I'm going to turn it back to illustrate my point. I realized that for me, like kind of the extremes of like most support and least support are the ones that come least naturally to me. Like I exist very much in the middle of the spectrum, and like sometimes directing doesn't come quickly to me because I never want to be a micromanager, and sometimes delegating doesn't because I'm like, wait, what are we doing? I want to know. I need more information. So it was just interesting for me to reflect on the fact that I like my comfort space is very much the middle of this spectrum rather than either of the ends.
Thank you, Marlies. I feel like I had a similar revelation as well. I feel like definitely with you on the delegating, where I think for me, what happens is that I have moments of feeling like if I don't know what's happening, and maybe this person may not necessarily feel comfortable to say, hey, I actually need some assistance or something's not working well, and I just like, yeah, you got this, and not checking with them, then I feel like I'm just concerned that maybe I could have supported in a way that I didn't, and don't want to wait until the end product to be like, oh, well, this wasn't what we had, anticipated, or this wasn't the goal that we wanted to meet. So yeah, I resonate with that, Marlies. Anyone else?
I'll speak up. When I did mine, I wrote down my go-to and what it was and what I would have when it didn't work. But when I got to about how I would like to be supervised, I really broke it up into what it is that what task I was being to do. So, and each one fell into a different category. So like a new task, I put down the directing type where I would need direction. And then delegating for the group work, it might be more delegating and facilitating. Well, if I was having trouble with something, I would need more of the coaching. So that made me think about, well, then how am I going to do it with my own staff?
Thank you, Wayne. And you're spot on. I mentioned this earlier. I don't know if you had already joined us at this time, but I mentioned that this is a task-based approach. It's not about just the individual, but again, it's more so about the task. So as you mentioned, with certain things, you have the experience, you have the confidence around it, then maybe it's more of like a delegated approach. But when you're doing something for the first time, it actually is really helpful and it's needed to have the step-by-step and to have someone there to guide you and say, this is how we do it. This is what it looks like. So yeah, I think that's, you got it. Anyone else?
Yeah, that's actually kind of exactly what I had thought of with my a time that my go-to didn't work out, because I prefer to be kind of more of a facilitator, like coaching relationship. But when you're first establishing those relationships and first the time that this happened to me was my assistant was leading an activity for the first time, like directing it herself, and she was doing a great job and I thought she could see that, but she couldn't. She was just getting really nervous, and I thought I was doing the right thing by being a little more hands-off and like letting her take the initiative, but she would have done a lot better if I had been very specific and taken more of like the directing style instead of being more laid back, which I kind of felt awkward about because it can feel a little overbearing, but often that's what people need when you're starting out, at least.
Mabruka, I had the same experience where I took on a coaching approach with somebody, and I was really rooting for them. I had the confidence in them. I wanted them to acknowledge that I really believed that they can do the job. I also had I had impression that they had more experience with this particular task, but my approach of being, the coaching approach didn't work. I had that individual at one point say, just give me the answers. Just tell me what you want me to do. Right?
She's like, what do I do next? I was like, I thought you knew, like, you're doing a great job. But, and she did know, she just didn't know that she knew. So
Exactly. And so for us as supervisors, we're trying to pull that out of them, right? I heard that about Danny where, she had a previous supervisor that was like, you can do this. As she was doubting herself, her supervisor was like, no, you can do this. And so we want to be those cheerleaders, but that's not always the right approach, and depending on the task. So let's look at the next slide. Marlies, please. So, nope, keep going. We don't need to do, actually, could I have you all take a second and just put your preferred style, rename yourself with your preferred style. The next breakout room that we have, Marlies is going to break you up based off of that. So if you can just take a minute, rename yourself in Zoom, if you have the permission to. If not, let us know.
The style that we work with, or the style that someone works with us?
Your preferred style of working with someone that you supervise, with your supervisees. Your go-to, like your default.
If anyone needs help renaming, I'm happy to name you if you tell me your style.
You can put me down for delegating. Thank you.
My back is gonna have some serious problems by the time we get back into real life. This couch life is not okay. Not okay.
Lita, I got my mom got my boyfriend for his birthday, like an outdoor chair, but he just puts it on his desk or couch or whatever. And it just provides you with back support. It's like $17 from Amazon if you want.
Yeah, I think I need something. We have everybody renamed?
Liz and Janaea, I think.
Liz said that she was stepping out.
Oh,
from
right.
Yes, Marley, I tried to rename it. I can't find it. I am going to go with coaching as well.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm back. I put coaching.
Thank you, everybody. All right, so let's think about how do we know which style to use and when? Miles, can you go over to the, so how do we know? Well, I'll let you know how. You do some math. Who here likes math? Where my math whiz? Okay, Marley, you like some math? All right, let's look at what I mean by that. Marley, can you go to the next slide? All right, so there are three main areas that you want to take a look at and you want to think about when you are supervising somebody. And again, as we mentioned, specific to a task. We want to think about their ability, the expertise and the speed in which an individual can learn a task at hand, their experience, which is an individual's familiarity with the work and transferable skills, and motivation, the confidence and the energy level that he or she brings to a specific task. So if I were to, let's say, rate myself, I'll use an example. So if we were thinking about lesson planning, I would rate myself in terms of ability, I would rate myself a 5. In terms of experience, I would rate myself a 5 as well. And for motivation, I'd give myself a 4. Lesson planning is important, but it's not my favorite thing to do. So my motivation around it isn't the high 5 as the other two areas. So if I were to add all that up and then divide it by 3, I would get a score of 4.6. Marlis, can you go to the next slide?
4.66.
Thank you, Jamie. There goes my math quiz. That's what I'm talking about, the math quizzes. Thank you.
Come
Appreciate that.
All right. I'm not that kind of math whiz.
All right, so where would I fall on this? What approach would you use for me on this? With the 4.66?
Delegating?
Yeah, I would say so.
Facilitating?
Yeah, I would say so. And if we go back and I look at maybe, let's say, grant writing, right? I would give myself, in terms of ability, a 3. I'm a quick learner. And for experience, I would also give myself a 3. I can transfer over my writing skills. And in terms of motivation, I would actually give myself a 2. While I'm excited to actually do something new, it is something new. So with that, I have some self-doubt. I'm not really, I'm not 100% confident in my ability. So Jamie.
2.66.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, same conversion, all good.
So then when we look at the chart, where am I going to be? What approach would you take with me?
More coaching and directing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree. And maybe even, in between a little of the coaching and facilitating as well, right? 2.66, I'm a little close to 3. So anywhere in that area.
We'd also round up to 2.7 if it's easier.
You were awesome, Jamie. Thank you so much.
I'm locked in right now.
I like this table.
So have people seen this before? How many people have? Show of hands. Marlies. I can't see everybody. Is there anybody else who's, nope.
Oh, Wendy has.
I've seen it years ago, something very similar.
Yeah, so Wendy, like I mentioned before, when I first started with the city, they sent us to a supervisory training, but it was like 6 months worth. And I remember seeing this model for the first time. And I have to say, you know, I refamiliarized myself with it. And as I was, you know, going through that process, I was able to think of specific moments where I didn't necessarily tap into this resource. And had I, the outcome would have been so much different. So for those of us that are seeing it for the first time, I'm hoping that this will be a tool. It is definitely effective. I hope it's a tool that you all can use and will use. I am going to send a packet over to everybody that's going to have a lot more detail in terms of what coaching looks like, facilitating, directing, when to, when not, along with tons of other stuff that just goes a little bit more in depth about what we cover. But what I'm going to have us do is we're going to jump into some practice. And so Marley, is if you can put the case studies, if you can give them access to the case study, and you're going to look at the case study that is aligned with the style that you chose as your preferred style. So if you said that your preferred style was facilitative, go to the case study that says facilitative. And you're going to read that. And as you read it, you're going to think about a couple of things. You're gonna come back and share out what was your scenario about. You're going to rate this person using the math skills that we all have. And you're gonna tell us what that rating was. You're also going to identify what style of supervision did the supervisor use, but was not effective. And then based off of your math skills, what style of supervision would have been a better match? Straightforward?
Lita, we have, I'm gonna put all you facilitator, sorry, I'm gonna put all you coaches together, all you facilitators together. And then Jamie, I wasn't sure what bucket you wanted to be in, confidence in your abilities.
Sorry, I got that one wrong. It was whatever the one, the confidence in your ability was under. So coaching, facilitating.
Okay. So then Tameen, if you had to pick more coaching or more facilitating, which one do you feel closer to?
Coaching.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make two groups, coaching and facilitating. Give me 1 second. Lito, as you were saying that, I was thinking it would also be cool to have a staff like fill this out for themselves and to see if like where they put themselves is where you would put them. Especially if a staff was like struggling with like, why are you giving me so much support or so little support? It would be like really cool to do.
That's a great point. I think, and something that sometimes we often overlook, I can say myself, is asking the question, you know, like what is your ability? What is your experience? What is your motivation level around it? And allow them to rate themselves and even rate them and see where you know, like you said, compare and contrast, and are you guys aligned? And I think it's also important too, that you can say, hey, this is how I think about how to approach, you know, working with you in a specific task. I think about these pieces. So if I'm giving you more direction than you need, I want you to understand that it's because, you know, of these things that I'm acknowledging. But I think it's important to use this and to share with people that you supervise, you know, this is a tool that could be helpful for conversation. So, and just be on the same page.
Tameen, I'm sorry, did we say coaching or facilitating was your closer one? Coaching?
Coaching. Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought, but then I like doubted myself. It's never good. All right.
Self-doubt gets us all.
So the link is in the chat. You can like ask for help with the button if it doesn't work, but the room should be open now.
So I'm going to give you all 10 minutes. We were only scheduled to be here until 12. So I'm going to try to get folks out by then. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes and then we'll come back.
Sure.
What group were you in, Katie?
Facilitating.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thank you.
So the scenario was that an employee that had been in the position for just about 2 years, was asked to take on a big project because of success in the other things that he had done, and he had been kind of managing or supervising a couple projects for about 9 months. And then when he was supervised, then when he went through the project, he was given all this information, very facilitator style, like kind of given and asked to do these broad questions. When the next meeting happened, he broke down and said that, you know, he had some answers, but he was looking for someone to tell him that those were the right answers, and he was unsure of how to kind of go about doing things. And so the style of supervision was obviously facilitation, but what he would have been better is like a cross between coaching and facilitation. We kind of did out the numbers, and he came to a 3. So he was like right in the middle of needing some more contact from coaching one-on-one, connecting in between, than just facilitation style.
Sweet. Thank you, Katie. Who wants to go next? Coaching, maybe? Delegating?
I'll go for coaching. We kind of got a late start and didn't really get a chance to all talk together, but I'm happy to break down the case study, which was you are running you're trying to run an anti-bullying program for girls in the 5th and 6th grade at your school, and you have hired a nationally recognized, local but nationally recognized program with a woman who has just been doing this forever, very high on the experience scale. And while she comes in and does it, and she's doing a great job, she continuously kind of big times you, in the sense that she doesn't come to meetings, she doesn't meet with you, she cancels. In her first meeting, she hijacked the meeting and didn't want to hear about your goals. And the person wants to know whether or not they should be worried, because it seems like she's doing a great job, but there is no supervision or feedback loop between the program and the school. So she's high on experience, but and ability, but low on motivation.
Thank you, Jamie. We have another group go, please. What happened?
There were only 2. We had all coaches and facilitators.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a quick share out. So again, I thank you all for staying a little later. The next thing that I wanted to do, but we can think about, maybe we can bring it to Janine and think about looking at this at a full-time staff meeting, just talking about rewards and recognition, because again, I think that it's really important to build morale. So to celebrate staff for all the hard work is really important, and we want to create systems around that. So I will ask Janine if we can do that in one of our meetings. Other than that, I would love to hear from everybody just one takeaway before we depart from our time together.
Melita, I really like looking at the chart again. I had seen it years ago, but I really, in the equations, I think it's really helpful. I'm gonna print it out and post it. Thank you.
I'm gonna send it to everybody too, so you'll have it via email, and then we can share it out to other folks too. Yep.
Thank you.
I echo Wendy and appreciate the grid and the visual and the description of the different styles, in terms of being able to, sometimes it's, especially if you're working with people for a long time, you know, you can be able, things can get a little bit mucky, and it kind of breaks it down a little bit with more clarity.
I echo Katie echoing Wendy. And I feel like I often have staff who are very curious and wanting to kind of become supervisors. And I think this would be a great way to almost like diagram. Like I was almost thinking you could use this chart and diagram like, okay, for these tasks during your day, where do you think you and I are versus for these tasks, and how can we like move you there? I think I'm really excited. And maybe even bringing them some case studies. I'm really excited about using kind of like this framework, not just for me, but being really transparent about it with staff too. It was a great reminder.
I hope to take this with me, and just thinking of certain staff that I've seen grown over the years of working with them, and how our styles can actually adapt with them to where they need to be. So that was a really cool thing to see.
It's
I
almost
also
been,
want
go ahead, Tameen.
Okay. I also want to say the chart is a good tool for staff who want to go to the next level and kind of chart themselves and then see where they need to be. If they want to become more of a facilitator, then they know in a certain spot they have to add a few more points. So it's a good kind of training mechanism as well as coaching.
For sure. And I just want to say it's almost been 9 months since I've been in a school program, basically. So seeing a lot of these is a really nice reminder of what different styles look like and other best practices that maybe you just haven't gotten any practice using this past year. And one that really stuck out to me was focus on results, not on process when you're giving feedback. So I look forward to giving feedback to people again soon.
I liked how the grid laid out different management styles, just because sometimes we're too stuck in our ways and people need to receive information in a different manner. So I like how that grid gives us different options and different ways that we can adjust our style to get the most productive results out of people.
Thank you.
I really liked how you structured this this meeting. It was, you know, started with a good reflection about ourselves and our strengths and weaknesses as supervisors, and then we kind of drew that out more and more, and now we have solid information with like the chart and the math equation. So Jamie, if I email you for some calculations, please don't be offended.
I love ratios.
Is that everyone? I think so, right?
I don't have much to add, but ditto to everything everybody said.
Well, again, I thank you all for your time. Thank you for staying over, and I will see some of you in just a few minutes. Have a great day.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.